The debate has been talked about ad nauseum for the past 2 weeks. Do you think anything is missing from the national conversation, any angle overlooked when you're hearing the conversations about the debate and you're looking at these numbers?
Well, as I'm looking at these numbers, as I said at the outset, the conversation here begins with whether or not President Biden should continue as the nominee. And we asked that specific question in the poll as well, and only 33% of people said yes. And again, only a third of Democrats said yes. A wide majority of independents and no party and third party voters indicated that he should not. Only black voters lean towards him staying in the race, and even that group is 50% yes, 30% no, and 20% undecided. For comparison, Biden won 87% of the black vote in 2020. So clearly there are some concerns here. I think Democrats are having a constructive conversation, as any reasonable organization in such a situation would have. And it's going to be up to President Biden whether or not he chooses to step aside, or if he believes that he still has the vigor to run this race and prosecute the case against President Trump. Until that question is settled, it's going to be difficult for any of the other issues within the political landscape to really emerge. We first have to determine whether or not President Biden is going to continue, and whether the majority of the country and a significant number of people in his own party believe that he has the mental and physical ability to continue.
President Biden has said in no uncertain terms that he is going to continue. Calls from his party, even today before you and I came on, continue to be vocalized that they think President Biden should step aside. So what are you looking out for between now and November?
Well, I think there's two windows to look out for. There's what to look out for over the course of the next week or two, both during and after the Republican convention, how that goes, how that's reported out in the media, as well as in the lead up to the Democratic Party officially declaring their nominee when they vote later on this month. As this poll shows, not only is the majority of voters overall concerned about President Biden's age and capacity, but a third of Democrats are in that same boat. And I think that Democratic members of Congress, other Democratic leaders around the country are hearing that. And that's fundamentally the conversation that is being had. Can the president convince his base that he's good? And moreover, can he convince unaffiliated, third party, independent voters of the same? We know that historically, by the time we get to November, both parties typically rally around their nominee, and those nominees can expect to receive 90+% of the voters of their own party. The question, therefore, is which way do independents swing? That has been the case now, several election cycles in a row, and it's in part the answer as to why the presidency has gone back and forth. The important independent vote has been the key determinant of who ends up in the White House. And as I mentioned, currently independents are very concerned by wide margins, more than percentage points, about the president's ability to serve and whether or not he should remain the nominee. So the question is not necessarily who's best for Democrats, because whatever Democrat ends up at the top of the ticket is probably going to get 90+% of Democratic voters. The question is more likely who can appeal to those independents, because that's going to be where the race is decided.